Hello and welcome back to the Strong Women Collective podcast. How are you? I hope you're having a gorgeous day wherever you are. I'm going to dive straight in this week because we've got quite a juicy topic that I want to unpick with you guys. And this is all around why you keep, quote unquote, falling off the wagon and how we can get that to stop happening, because this is something that's actually been coming up quite a lot in client check-ins, and that feeling of no matter how hard I try, I'm still not as consistent as I want to be. And I want to unpick the main reasons as to why that happens and how we can actually start to do something about it, because often the problem is not knowledge. Once you've learned your protein foods, what training plan you should be following, how many steps you need to do, like your calorie ranges, all of that kind of stuff, that tends to come quite early on in our fitness journey. But if you've ever felt like you start and stop and it's just relentless and you can never really lock into like making long lasting change, then this is going to be the episode that you will want to tune into. I think one of the big things to unpick is the fact that the wagon that we have assigned ourselves doesn't actually exist. This is a block that we put in place. And I think it is important to reflect on the fact that perfectionism is not needed. And this like on-off diet mentality is something we've created. We've created it through diet culture, terrible diets, all of these things that really make us have this like pass or fail mentality. When ultimately, particularly if the goal is fat loss, all we need is to be in a calorie deficit over time. But what we have brought it into is this grind harder, no days off. You need to be in that aggressive deficit 7 days a week in order to see results. And then what happens is something crops up in life, you get overwhelmed, you miss a workout, whatever it is. And then all of a sudden you're turning around like, okay, shit, I don't think I can do this anymore. And the problem isn't you, it's this situation that you are trying to put yourself into. And the big thing is that real life exists in that messy middle ground. That is not saying that you do not have to put work in, but it is not as aggressive as you have potentially been made out. And I think, again, somebody who gets these great results and can keep them long term does learn that art of balance, which means knowing when to dial it up, but also knowing when it's okay to pull it back and not expecting effort to be exactly the same every single day. Like, consistency is not the same level of effort every single day. It is about showing up continuously, whether that's with more effort or slightly less, but making that active choice to continue taking that next one action that is going to move you closer towards your goals. I think the other thing within this is that somebody that you might look at as a bit of an inspiration, somebody who you think is balanced, somebody who you think is living the life that you want, they still go out to eat. They just get back on their shit the next day. They might miss a workout because it's unavoidable, but they just go and get their next one in. There are so many examples I could give you. Like, I am not perfect. I miss workouts. I just don't miss them a lot, or I don't miss them unless I've got a valid reason to. You know, back in the beginning of my like quote unquote lifting career, I would really try and not miss a workout because I was that person for whom I felt like if I missed a day that I'd never go back. Obviously I did, because I'm still here and I'm still doing it. But I did used to have to fight through that mentality. Whereas it's only over time, it's only over continuing to show up, continuing to make that next choice, like being okay with, okay, fine, I've missed one workout, but I don't want to miss two. That has helped me build that consistency and turn it from the I have fallen off the wagon mentality to, okay, well, I can just choose to pick this up again tomorrow. And I think one of the biggest things that you have to fight against is that mindset and that little voice in your head that says, well, I've missed it today, there's no point. And one of the best analogies I can use for this is from a writer and researcher, Brene Brown, and it's her marble jar analogy. And what this basically says is like, if every time you take a positive action, like towards your goals, you add a marble to a jar, if you miss a day, that jar doesn't disappear. That jar doesn't get smashed against the floor. You know, you've all heard if you had one flat tire, you wouldn't slash all the other three, because of course you wouldn't, because that wouldn't make sense. It's the same within the realm of our fitness space. If you miss a day, you just get back on it. And we've created this culture whereby we think we need to be on some like mythical wagon, and we don't take that analogy and apply it to our fitness life like we would every other area. Like, if you miss a day of work, you don't all of a sudden up and quit your job. If your kid misses a day of school, you don't take them out and be like, well, that's it, no more school for you, because that would be ridiculous. But when it comes to our fitness journey, we've got ourselves in this little hole of like, oh, well, I've missed one day, so I can't possibly go again. But you can, and you have to get better at choosing to take that next step and go and do that next, like, one thing. Another of the big problems that we see within this, like, why I'm falling off the wagon, quote unquote, because as we've just said, there is no freaking wagon, is sometimes we get a little bit too overexcited and we start a little bit too extreme. And I think everybody I know has had at least one of these in their journey where they go, right, that's it. As of Monday, I am doing 6 days a week. I'm doing 15,000 steps, only eating clean. I'm only drinking water. I'm not having any alcohol. And it's like, yeah, great. Some of those like key bits are going to be helpful when you have got like a fat loss or a muscle getting goal, right? Of course they are. But the problem is it's so aggressive that you're going to run out of steam. You are going to end up relying on so much motivation, so much willpower in order to get that done. And you don't need to be that far in it. Like, you guys watching this, listen to this, you're not bikini competitors. You're not stepping on the stage next month. You do not need the most cut, lean physique. You might want it, and that's great for you. But most of the people I work with just want to feel really great when they put on a bikini or a pair of shorts or are in a photo. Like, they want to be able to get their legs out and not worry about it, or to be able to go clothes shopping without having a meltdown, right? These are like what I would term like normal people. So we need to stop thinking that we need to train like professional athletes in order to get the results of a quote unquote normal person. Like, not a single one of my clients has ever had to like eat clean throughout the entirety of their fat loss phase. They have never had to swear off alcohol. Yes, we've had to look at how those behaviors match up, but you do not need to go in on the most aggressive deficit, cut out absolutely everything you love, take your step count from 3,000 to 15,000 every day, because you are going to burn out. And I am all for dialing up, and I'm all for starting harder to then peel it back. But we need to create a plan for like our actual life, not this ideal version of us that we think is out there. Because if you think of it as when you start, you set the baseline. Every week, every month that goes by, you can just add that little bit more. Think of it as laying the foundations for a house. Like, I always say to new clients, like, weeks 1 to 4 are laying your foundations. It's getting you into a routine, figuring out when we're going to train, working out what we need your calories to be, getting your steps in, all of that baseline stuff. And then we can layer on more from here. This is what I think is missed a lot in these like aggressive diet plans, and I'm going to start this diet and I'm going to go keto, or I'm going to cut out this. It's like, okay, fine, but maybe let's pull it back a little bit. Maybe let's try and work on 1 or 2 big changes, rather than having that complete overhaul that then leaves you burnt out and you're 10 days in and then you're like, well, I can't freaking stick to this. And again, knowing what we know with regards to a calorie deficit is like, that is built over time. You do not be in a calorie deficit like one day and then lose 3 pounds of fat. You need to be consistent. And again, one of the best examples I can give you is I was doing spin class this morning and I was doing Tabata sets, which if you have a Peloton and you do Robin's yellow rides, which is all in yellow, like, you will know they are aggressively challenging. And she said something that really resonates. She was like, I don't care what you do once, I care what you do 10,000 times. And this is something that we really need to focus in on. It's like, if we're trying to be in a calorie deficit, we need something that we can do 1,000 times, not just once. Like, yeah, I absolutely could do a 24-hour fast, but I'm only going to do it once. It's not actually going to help me get towards my fat loss goals, because I'm not going to be able to sustain that. The same as I could eat 800 calories on one day, but I'm not going to do that 7 days a week for 4 months, because I'm not going to be able to stick to that. So I might as well eat 1,500 calories, that's still a deficit, that allows me to actually eat some real food that I feel like I can do, and I can see those results long term. Because nothing ever happens based on you doing something once. We are what we repeatedly do. And we need to be able to work within the confines of like our real life. And that is not me saying you do not need to push yourself. I am all for pushing yourself. But at some point, you can't just keep going for the next novel diet or that fresh start effect. We've got to lean into, if you want to fight that mentality of like, I just keep falling off the wagon and I can't be consistent, you have to get better at playing that long game and in sticking with it to really see past those plateaus and build the systems that are then gonna dictate your life. Because yes, we can all do the diet starts Monday, and we can all act when motivation is super high, but motivation is temporary. Whereas your routines, your structure, the things you do day in, day out, they are going to be a much better indicator of how your progress is going to go long term, which is why we talk so much about like locking in your training days, getting your gym stuff out the night before, writing yourself a meal plan, doing a weekly food shop, so that you're not leaving these things to chance. And it's like, if you have tried all these diet plans and you're still sat there being like, but why am I not consistent? It's because you haven't got this stuff sorted. You haven't got your routine. You haven't got your systems. You haven't sorted out your environment to allow it to be something that pushes you up, not drags you down. And as much as I dispute that the gym, lifting, etc., ever become a true habit, because a true habit would mean it's something that you don't have to think about. And I'm 15 years in and I still have to kind of actively lock in to be like, I am going to the gym. Otherwise, I could genuinely just snooze my alarm most days. But it's like, habits stick when they are realistic, repeatable. They don't carry too much friction. There's not too many barriers in the way. Whereas the stuff that relies on you being very motivated, having a lot of willpower, that isn't going to be set up for that to become a new habit for you, because there's too much standing in the way of what you need to be doing, which is, fun, but not. When it comes to our bodies, and particularly within the context of fat loss, I know every man and his dog is talking about aggressive diets right now. And I am not here to shit on aggressive dieting. What I am here to push back on is this notion that you have to do every fat loss phase as an aggressive deficit. Whilst I do not believe in it being such a small deficit that you don't see change, because you are not going to see any meaningful results, which means that you're going to lose interest, and that means that you're going to just quit early. Like, that's fine. What I believe is best is to have a good enough deficit that you see results, you see the numbers changing on the scales, but you do not feel super restricted all the time, particularly if you are a woman who has had any history of disordered eating, who has struggled a lot with their relationship with food. And the reason for this is, the more aggressive your diet, the more aggressive your deficit, the bigger gap there is between what your maintenance calorie needs are and what you're actually eating. So yes, this is going to yield faster weight loss, but it is also going to ramp up your hunger. It is going to ramp up your cravings. It is going to increase your food focus, because I could put every single one of you watching this, listening to this, that works with me, I could put every single one of you on like 1,100 calories and you'd all see results like this. But, and I think this is particularly true, again, this bit is not science-based, but I think this is particularly true for women, because we have a lot more hormonal fluctuations that we have to deal with, particularly as we're like going through pregnancy, postpartum, perimenopause, menopause, etc. So men are quite like stable. We're up and down like yo-yos. So we have to kind of lean into that and work with that, right? But the more aggressive your deficit is, the higher your hunger is, the more your food focus is going to increase, the more you're going to have cravings, the more your recovery is going to worsen, and the more your energy is going to drop. And to a certain extent, if you go to work, sit in an office for 8 hours, you don't move too much, you get to come home, somebody's cooked for you, you just get to eat and go to bed, that's kind of easier to deal with, right? But I do not know a single one of my female clients, whether they've got kids or not, who isn't doing stuff before work, in their lunch, after work. Like, the amount of times I hear like one of my clients being like, oh yeah, I got really great steps at lunch, but it's because I needed to go out and pick up XYZ for the kids, or I need to go and drop Vinted parcels off because we're all selling our lives on Vinted. We're on the go earlier until later. We get less wind down time. We get less sit down time, which means, yes, okay, we're burning more energy. So again, you come back to, yeah, but surely my deficit's going to be bigger and this is going to be awesome. But it is also a stressor on your body. And this stressor is going to come with side effects. And our bodies don't know that what we're doing right now is doing a little aesthetic tidy up because we want to get into a bikini in Ibiza and go to a beach club and not feel out of place. Our body doesn't know that. It's just a bit like, holy fucking shit, is she ever going to feed me again? So we have to deal with this. So again, kind of like coming back to, if you are struggling to stay consistent, and that is partly because every single time you go into a deficit, you lop off the biggest amount of calories possible. genuinely, I would encourage you to start with a smaller deficit and allow a little bit of an adjustment before you then drop them again. And I've just run through this process with one of my clients. She came to me and she was like, I just always do the standard 1,200 calories. I can do it Monday to Thursday, maybe Monday to Friday. And then I just find myself like falling off the wagon every weekend. So immediately I put her calories up. And at this point, people would be like, well, hang on, but if 1,200 is her deficit number and she's not losing weight, then why would you put her calories up? And it's like, because 1,200 isn't her deficit number. She can actually lose weight on much more than that, because she's probably eating 3,000, 3,500 calories every weekend, maybe more, sometimes less, but maybe more. So what she was doing was starting every Monday, trying to lose the water weight, get back into a deficit, to be back in a deficit by Thursday, Friday, to then those calories go up again. So it was just this constant fluctuation, which wasn't then allowing for meaningful change. So I put her calories up to 1,600, gave her a little bit more flexibility at the weekend, and was like, your only job right now is to stick to these new numbers. And she was like, holy shit, she's £9 down in 9 weeks, which is an incredible rate of loss. Like, that is the gold standard. She's going into a holiday feeling absolutely incredible, and she hasn't had to feel like she was starving in order to do that. And there was a Minnesota starvation experiment. I won't give you all of the details and bore you with all the science, but basically what they did was they had like 3 months, I think it was 3 months control, 3 months aggressive deficit, and then coming back up towards like refeeding and maintenance and stuff like that. Yes, these people lost a huge amount of weight, but also they became obsessed with food, emotionally distressed, and then were very like highly reactive around their eating. And basically the point of the experiment was to see what happens when you effectively starve people, but it was also to look at like psychologically what happens. And yes, we can think, oh, well, I must be thinking about this because it's the food, or it's this problem, or it's just a me problem, but it's not. Food obsession actually comes from that psychological damage. And again, I would love you to find me a woman in her 30s, 40s or 50s who hasn't spent a huge chunk of the past 10, 15, maybe even 20 years thinking about what she's eating and thinking about what her body looks like. And we often come back to these aggressive diets, juice cleanses, all of that kind of stuff, because we think it's going to yield a quicker result. But actually, it's one of the things stopping us from being consistent, because we are relying too much on white knuckling it with willpower alone. And it's not helpful. Yes, you can absolutely be in a slightly more aggressive deficit. And again, taking my client, I could have said, okay, well, let's meet in the middle and do 1,400 calories. But I also think, well, if I can get her to lose weight on more food than that, and she's actually got energy to train and she feels really good, then why on earth would I take more calories away from her? For what purpose? All it does is gives you a kickback somewhere along the line and is setting you up to potentially be more miserable. Point number 4 on how to become a more consistent human is to recognize that consistent people are not motivated as fuck all the time. I would argue, consistent. Most weeks I train 4 times. I do 2 to 3 stints of cardio, maybe more, maybe less, depending on my overall goals. But my baseline is 4 training sessions a week, most weeks. That, by definition, I would say is pretty freaking consistent. I do not want to do it a lot. I have spoken openly about this on the podcast before. I spent the bulk of 2025 not wanting to train. It was very much going through the motions, going because that was just what I did. Of course, there are outliers. Of course, there are athletes, gym bros, pure gym girls who live off that shit. And, great if you're an influencer whose main job is to look good and film yourself in the gym. But as a near 35-year-old with a house, a business, who works 50 plus hours a week, who's got clients that need me, a partner that needs me, I don't buzz off going to the gym all of the time. The reason I go is because it's part of my routine, and I am a gal who loves routine. Congratulations, undiagnosed ADHD, very likely over here, but I love routine. I love structure. I love knowing what's happening, but also because of the mental and the physical benefits. Like, I cannot deny I have worked so hard over the last 15 years to build this muscle. I love it. I love that I now finally have some definition. I love that I'm relatively strong. That makes me happy. And if that makes me vain, then cool, so be it. I love that I've got more body confidence now. I love that I don't fear being in a bikini, all of that kind of fun stuff, right? But also mentally, it keeps my brain in check. I need to exercise. I need fresh air. I need a walk every single day. I am like a dog. I need exercise, and it is a way of me regulating myself. But I still get tired. I still get demotivated. I still feel stressy. I still sometimes will skip a workout if work really catches up with me and I feel like I'm not recovering well and all of that kind of stuff. So you have to remember that, like, number one, consistency looks different for everybody, but you also have to stop thinking that you are going to want to do it all the time. And I know it's a boring analogy, right? But you do not want to go to work every single day. But you do, because there is a penalty. I have thought and said for years, if there was a financial penalty every time we missed a workout, I do think like fewer people would miss their training sessions. And actually one of my clients, the gym that she goes to is like a CrossFit gym. And if she signs onto a class and doesn't go, she gets charged £5. And it makes her not cancel it. She's like, I'm not losing a £5. And I don't blame her for doing that. And I think if there were more of a tangible issue with us not going to the gym or skipping a workout, I think we would do it a lot more. But the problem is there isn't, until you get hit with a health problem, until you maybe have a fall and you break your ankle and it doesn't heal as quickly as it could because you're not, you haven't been training and you don't have much muscle mass. It's only really then, it's like when it feels quote unquote too late that we start to think about like, well, actually, maybe I should have done something about this earlier. And you've just got to think sometimes, and as blunt as it is, it's like there's not a hack or a workaround for absolutely everything. It is reducing the friction as much as possible, so you just get up and go. You go and do the thing. The reason I train first thing in the morning is because it means I can't let work get in the way. And if you have ever worked with me, you will know that I talk about this all the time. Like, where possible, I am a big advocate for training first thing in the morning. Because particularly if your work is unpredictable, your home life is unpredictable, like you don't know if your kids are going to get sent home from nursery or from school. If you have the means to train first thing and to do something for you before you go and give your time to everybody else, I genuinely think you get on better. You've also got the smugness, because people that train at 5 or 6 a.m, we do deserve to be more smug than people that train at 5 p.m. I'm sorry, I'm going to put it out there and you can fight me on that if you want. But like, I do think that there's a certain type of discipline that is involved in getting up at 5 to be in the gym for 6. But it's really worth it when you can turn around and be like, yeah, before 9 a.m, I've done a workout, I've had my first meal with my protein in it, I've drunk a litre of water, I've taken my supplements and I've moved my body. Like, that is cool. That is awesome to be able to say that. That is the true, like, what would somebody who looks after themselves do? That's probably what they would do. Now, obviously, yes, I know that sometimes it's not possible for you to train first thing, which is like absolutely fine. The thing is like working out around what is viable for you and where this is going to fit in your life. But again, I used to train at 6 p.m. Did I want to? No. But I used to commute, blah, 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 did all that. So it was like, that was my only time. So it's like, well, I either do it now or I don't do it at all. And I wanted to do it for me. Okay, way back when. Once upon a time, the pure goal was losing body fat. Again, I didn't want to do it all the time. It just became something I did. I was that girl. This is when I used to live in Lancaster and I used to work in Manchester. So I'd leave the house at just after 7, be on the train for 7:30 to get into work just after 8:30. I left work just before 5 to get the train home. I think it was like off the train at say 6:15, running through Lancaster town centre, work bag, gym bag, lunchbox, flying, just so that I could try and make it for a 6:30 class. I used to get changed in the toilets at the train station or in the cubicle on the train, which if you've ever been to the toilet on a train, you will know how rancid that is. Like, I would be standing on my shoes to try and make sure that my feet didn't touch the floor. I have left so much stuff. I lost most of my nice jewelry because it fell out of my pocket whilst I was on the train. I lost a scarf that I love because I managed to just drop it, because I would be wandering around like a freaking bag lady. And I remember doing that like wiggly bum run/walk that we all do when we're late to try and get into the gym, so that I wasn't too late for the class. Like, I was lucky. They didn't mind if I joined in late. But I didn't want to get in late. It made me feel very uncomfortable. Being late just makes me feel uncomfortable anyway. But it's like, that to me was it was awful. I didn't want to do it. But those were the class times that I had available. I didn't, back then, bear in mind we are talking 2013, there weren't as many gyms. If I did the same commute now, I would just train gym in the city centre in Manchester, because ironically, round the corner from where I used to work, there's now a JD gym that's like 24 hours a day. But back then, there wasn't. Gyms weren't 24 hours a day. You didn't have as many gym memberships. There weren't as many chains. Like, there wasn't a JD. Don't know if there was the gym group, but there wasn't one near me, either in work or at home. I went to an independent gym at home. So it's like, it was just a bit of a case of make do, but the alternative was, I don't do this. So I got it done. By the way, do not think for 1 minute that I have ever been the most motivated person. I think my mum still looks and goes, how the freaking hell did you become a personal trainer and an online coach? Like, I was the least active person, didn't like going for a walk, didn't like any sport, didn't want to do anything like that. And I have told you guys before, I was purely the join a gym to lose weight kind of gal. I hated it for the first 3 years. Hated it. Wanted to cry all the time. It felt awful. But eventually it just became, dare I say, routine for me. The last point I kind of want to run over with regards to why you struggle to be consistent is you think that this is going to take a lot less time than it actually is. And because you're trying to get results too fast, you've got no patience. And I'm sorry to call you out on that one. Like, I really am. But I will bring you back to the age old. It didn't take you 8 weeks to get to where you're at. So it ain't going to take 8 weeks to undo it. Like, if you are like, I want abs, I want glutes you could rest a bowl on. Like, I want that physique. Well, your body right now is a byproduct of everything you've eaten, drunk, done since you were born. So if, like me, you are in your mid-30s, you might have 30 odd years behind you. Now, admittedly, yes, as a kid, you're not in control of that, right? But let's take it from 20. From 20 to 35, that's all been on me. If I'm not where I want to be, that's because I haven't been putting that effort in. And it is as blunt as that. Forgive me for being blunt. But in so much talk of 6 week, 8 week, 12 week shreds, do this plan, that plan, because we've put time limits on things, which is, again, awesome, because it does allow that sense of like, I am locking in for this amount of time. It's great. And you can, of course, see quite speedy results. Like, I've seen, clients lose 5 to 7 kilos inside 8 weeks, which is a very healthy rate of loss. But fat loss alone is only one piece of the puzzle. If you want to look toned, you want to have strength, you want to have muscle, it is going to take a lot longer than that to build that muscle. But in a sea of these quick transformations, these quick shreds, social media showing a before and after in 30 seconds, it has taken away our element to persevere and to be patient and to show up day in, day out, week in, week out. But if I showed you all my clients' journeys over the past year, 18 months, 2 years, 5 years, you'd lose interest, because you just go, but God, that takes a long time. Yeah, it does. But sometimes we have to go, okay, well, am I saying that I'm not worth it? Like, if you have a career that has had a lot of qualifications, you've had to do a lot of whatever, build you up to the top, you could have been working inside your career for the last 10 to 15 years. Again, to use the same analogy that we've used before, why is your career worth it, but your body and your health isn't? If we look at it that bluntly, most of you would be like, well, actually, yeah, like, it is worth it. But we get too caught up in, this is going to take me forever, so maybe I'll just not bother. And we're just looking for that quick fix. But the people that get the best results, the people that stay the course, put the work in for years. And sometimes you do have to kind of seemingly do it for weeks and months without really getting a reward. Like, this is a very minute example, but I am just about to film my 5-week update for my fat loss phase. It's only this week that I've seen a new low. So this is 5 weeks of slogging it out. It's taken the last 2 weeks to get the scales to drop again. If I was looking for that quick fix, I would have given up about 10 days ago. And again, I don't hold myself up as this person who is so perfect and doesn't ever do anything wrong. But through experience, and again, this is why I'm giving this out to you guys, I have seen it time and time again that you do have to be patient. Not a single person with the body of their dreams or the body of your dreams has got that in a matter of weeks. Yes, you can achieve great weight loss inside 8 weeks. Yes, you can lay some great foundations, but the body you want is probably going to come after years of week in, week out working at it. The trick is to have lots of things to look forward to in the meantime. Set yourself different goals, challenge yourself with maybe some new classes or some new lifts so that you can stay motivated inside that path of progression. But the sustainability in terms of your looking a certain way, feeling a certain way, your body performing a certain way does come from repeated workouts, average days, moderate effort, the same thing day in, day out, week in, week out, repeated maybe over years. But again, somewhere along the line, we've lost that as like a cool thing to do. And it's like, let me just see how much weight I can lose in 8 weeks before I go to Ibiza with the girls, which again, great. But if you're trying to fight that narrative of I can do that, but I never make it stick, like I lose 5 kilos every summer and I've put it straight back on again every winter. To get a different result, you have to stop doing what you did before, which means coming back to all of these things, coming back to being consistent, being patient, putting the work in, even if you're not getting a direct result, showing up for the shit workouts, doing the half-assed ones, tracking your food when you can't be bothered, choosing not to drink because it doesn't really align with your goals. That is what is going to help you get better results over time. And that is what is going to help you break through those barriers, those plateaus that you see time and time again. Because at its core, your routine, your structure, the things you do, want to be able to survive birthdays, holidays, busy patches at work, times when your kid's off sick, times when you're ill, times when you're up to your neck in stress from work. There needs to be, yes, a level of like flexibility, but you have to get better at being able to miss one thing and show up for the next. Being able to not get your steps in one day, but you make sure you do it on day 2. Again, one of the Peloton coaches always says, like, it's about sprints, but I think it's great to take into real life. Never miss 2 in a row. So she's like, I'd rather you not do a half-assed one. I'd rather you miss the next one, but you have to do the one after that. So you can miss one sprint, but you can't miss 2 in a row. The same can be said for your gym sessions, unless you're really ill or really got extenuating circumstances. Right? If you miss a workout, you have to go and get your next one in. If you miss your steps one day, you have to push yourself to go and get them the day after. That springboard mentality helps keep your eye in. And I think as well, it's like the less of a gap you have, the easier it is to get back on your teeny tiny little wagon. Whereas if you miss 2 days, you miss 3 days, you miss 4 days, the gap between what you were doing and what you're doing now gets wider, and it feels like it's so much harder to claw it back. But like, obviously I will say, like, from a progress perspective, like if you've been training for 3 years and then you take 4 months off, obviously it's not ideal, but you will find that the comeback is quicker than the initial build because you've got all of this knowledge and all of these tools. The same as your first fat loss phase, whether it's with me, another coach, by yourself, might feel really freaking challenging. But once you've got all of those tools in place, it's then a lot easier to do a subsequent one because you know your numbers, you know your targets, you know what you should be aiming for, and that makes it a lot easier. But this is a not too short chinwag on how to break through and how to become more consistent. And fundamentally, it relies on setting yourself up with good systems, understanding that one bad day does not need to make a bad week, getting back on and not missing that second of whatever it is, and making sure that you sense check yourself every now and then to be like, are my expectations in line with my actions? Because it's all well and good having lofty goals, but that also means you have to have lofty actions that are going to move you further forwards, because otherwise you are just going to set yourself up for failure. And we don't want that here. As I said, my week 5 fat loss update, it's going to be live soon. Thank you so much for bearing with me, because I am aware that from the podcast perspective, this is late and I don't like that. However, I am having to do a little bit of rejigging on when I record the pod because Tuesdays have just got a little bit too busy, which is awesome. I will just drop in here for those of you that are still listening. The waitlist is open for the next intake of the Strong Girl Gang, which is my 8-week transformation program. Priority spaces go out to the girls on Thursday, the 28th of May, which is also my birthday, greatest day of the year. And your priority discount will be open for 24 hours. Then it's going to go to general sale. Spaces close on the 5th of June because we start on Monday, the 8th of June. So if you're new here and you're like, what the freaking hell is a Strong Girl Gang? This is my 8-week group coaching program. Actually, it does it a disservice to call it a group coaching program because there is a lot of one-to-one time with me. But essentially, we get you set up with workout plan. We get you set up with your targets based on your goals. You get nutrition targets, movement targets, cardio targets, full training plan with everything you need available for both home and gym. You get 4 one-to-one check-ins with me. And we have weekly live calls every Tuesday where we cover all of the big topics, things like hormones, periods, being consistent, getting motivation back, and all of that kind of stuff, so that we take you from feeling drab to feeling fab. Yes, I know that did sound like a cliche, but I am going to run with it. You do not have to have a fat loss goal to work with me inside the Strong Girl Gang. It's really great if you need a bit of accountability, a bit of extra motivation, a little bit of an extra drive to show up for yourself. But if you are looking at summer, I mean, right now it's Wednesday the 20th of May. If you are now looking at summer like, I've got no clothes that fit, I'm going to have to do another Shein haul, I hate how I feel in summer clothes, it's getting warmer, I'm feeling self-conscious, I'm feeling really miserable, my gym progress isn't going anywhere, then this is the group that you need to be in. The details for the Strong Girl Gang priority list are in the show notes. And obviously you can reach out to me if you've got any questions. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, go have a gorgeous weekend. Please do remember your SPF because it is meant to be warm this weekend, particularly if you're a Botox galley like myself. I will be back with you next week. Goodbye.